Welcome at the first tutorial of DPTechnics. We are going to make hardware and software for your home automation system based on the Raspberry Pi. Just look at this. Okay, so you can see the whole system here. This is the hardware part we're going to make. This is the Raspberry Pi, computer screen and two light sources. Also, I have my smartphone running the same application in HTML5. The Raspberry Pi is the server for this application. So now I'm going to show what we can do. To start, we are going to investigate what's inside the remote control of our wall outlets. We need to know what's inside because we are going to design a circuit board that's going to interface this system. So this is our board. The blue connections you see are ground or 0 volts. The red and yellow connections are the other ends of the switches on the other side of the board. So we just need to make a printed circuit board that connects blue to yellow and red to turn on or off the devices. Okay, so this is our schematic. At the top end here is the power supply. It takes in 12 volts and output 3.3 volts. Here you can see the transistors. They are like electronic switches and will make the connections to the yellow and red connections you saw on the printed circuit board earlier. Here you can see the crystal. The crystal generates the frequency needed for the CPU and the microcontroller to run our program. This schematic is now converted to a printed circuit board, all done manually. Now it's time to really start making our PCB. Okay, so welcome at the DPTechnics workshop. We're now going to make our PCB we've designed earlier on the computer. I've set up all my etching gear. This is the design we've made on the computer, and as you can see I've printed it on translucent material. This is just some plain inkjet transparency film you can buy then at every office store. This is the PCB we are going to use. It's an epoxy base coat with some copper and a UV activated layer on it. So there are actually 3 steps in making the PCB. The first thing we need to do is use this machine. Actually it has 4 UV tubes on it and a timer. So when we activate it, we place the design on the machine, and therefore where all the black ink is on the transparency film will not be activated on the PCB. Okay, the second step we have in the process, after we've activated the UV coating on the board, we need to develop it. We use sodium hydroxide for this. It's the brown liquid over here. Actually you need some gloves for it because it actually eats your hands. Okay, so the last step in etching the board happens over here. It's a box filled with sodium solution, and it really eats away the copper we don't need. The heater over here turns it into 50 degrees Celsius. It's needed because the process only starts at that temperature. Okay, so we are now going to light the board. As you can see, I've printed some text on the design. And it's actually a very critical point to do, because you can either put the design on this way or you can do it this way. But this is clearly wrong, because the component side is on this side on the board, and when I print it like this, it's actually a negative image of our design. So we really need to make sure we can read the text when we place the design on the board. So now I'm going to remove the protective film from the board. Okay, so you now really can see the copper on the board, and on top of that is the UV activated coating. So when I take the design, we really need to make sure the text is readable and everything is placed correctly. So as you can see, this is really the only correct way to do it. I'm now going to place it in our machine. I usually choose 1 minute and 15 seconds. So as you can see, it's already set up. And but it really depends on the machine you've got. This is one I have designed by myself. So it's actually critical you just try some boards and find out the best time for yourself. Okay, so now the board is UV activated. You can't really see it on camera, but when I put it in the developer, it should appear on the PCB. Okay, it starts appearing right now. Let me show it to you. As you can see, the design is really appearing, so now I leave it in there for about 1 minute out of 2 minutes. Okay, so as you can see, the development process is completely done and you can really see the design on the PCB. So now in the etching process, all the light copper will be eaten away by the sodium fluid. Okay, so now the most exciting part. We're going to etch the board. So I've just attached some wires so the board doesn't drop to the bottom. I'm going to insert it now. So now it's time for the software part. We are going to install the hard-float Raspbian Wheezy image on the Raspberry Pi. Use Win32 Disk Imager for it. Be sure to use a fast SD card and with a large capacity and minimum over 2 GB of space, because the Raspbian image is quite large. Then follow the installation steps on the site. So that's it. You've just built your own home automation system based on the Raspberry Pi. We invite you to look at our source code and expand it the way you want. If there are any questions, we are happy to answer it on our Facebook page. See you to the next tutorial.